Now we will see rights based approach. Okay, so in the rights based approach, what is the basic thing that we need to consider? So all humans have, humans have basic rights. All humans have basic rights, and you cannot compromise those. Okay, so based on these we can decide the actions which will either undermine or enhances these rights. Based on that we can decide whether the action is morally or ethically justifiable or not. Okay, so here for example, we have seen already the ethical, some of the important ethical rights. What is that? Right to freedom, right to expression and privacy. So those are only some of the rights. Okay, so if you consider some of the countries like autocratic countries especially, where the freedom is very very restricted, people's freedom is curtailed, there we don't have a freedom. But those type of restrictions, those are called as the negative, that is restricting. So it is called as the negative approach. So we can say that morally it may not be justifiable. Okay, but whereas if you take any positive rights, some government will take some positive rights. Okay, and even if you take India itself, we have a negative and as well as a positive. Okay, so in our Indian constitution we have a positive and as well as a negative rights. Okay, so what are those fundamental rights? We have a fundamental rights in the constitution. So in the constitution we have fundamental rights, and in the fundamental rights, these rights are framed against state. These rights are framed against the state. Okay, why? Because here state is the one who try to infringe upon the citizens' rights. Okay, so that is why here the state is restricted. We can call it as a negative rights. But there are some of the rights, like if you consider RTI, Article 21A. Okay, these are rights, the constitutional rights start from Article 14 to the Article 32. 32 is repealed, but anyway we have up to 31. Okay, so 32 is here, but in between 31 is repealed, I think. So RTI, right to education, RTE. Okay, right to education. RTI is a right to information. That also we will deal when we talk about the whistleblowers. Okay, RTE, right to education, this is a 21A. So according to this, see, if you take a Supreme Court, Article 21 is the one of the peculiar what we call that right which is very much interpreted by the Supreme Court. Okay, what is the Article 21? That is a right to dignity, right to life with a dignity. So under this, it is interpreted like anything. See, right to life means citizens are entitled for the quality air, quality food, everything. Okay, even income. So if you interpret in that way, see, in these days, everyone should be very well educated to get the very decent life. Okay, so that is why I know RTE also can be interpreted under 21, Article 21. So here this is a positive right. Why I am saying this positive right? Here, instead of we are restricting the state to infringe upon the citizens' right, we empower the state to make some laws so that the education will be provided for the disadvantaged people also. Okay, so that is, it will improve their life. Okay, so like that, based on these rights we can judge the ethical nature of any action. Okay, and here generally these rights are defined into the different generations. Okay, for example, first generation rights. First generation rights, what are those? These first generation rights are negative in approach. Okay, and most of the thing the negative, and these are more of a political in nature. Political nature. What is the meaning of this? For example, here, when we got the independence, newly independent, then we provided, voting right, voting rights to the women, voting rights to women. Okay, we voting rights to women. We provided voting rights to women, thinking that it will increase their, it will benefit the women. Okay, we provided a voting rights to women, thinking that it will benefit. But what happened over the period? That voting right didn't change their situation. Okay, even not only for the women, even there are so many schemes, or even in the constitution we provided even reservation for the disadvantaged section, thinking that that will improve their situation. But what happened? It didn't help them. So this led to the second generation of right. Second generation of rights. See, this may not be required, but anyway, since the topic came, I am just explaining this also. So in the second generation, these are called as the enabling rights. Enabling rights. So here what is happening? So whatever disadvantaged section are there, for example, if you take women or disabled people or even backward caste, the reservation political rights itself is not enough. So if you take disabled people, they have a reservation already in the constitution, but still there is no advantage for them. So they came up with some schemes. Government came up with schemes to help them to pursue the higher education or to provide self-employment. Even for the women also, they came up with different types of schemes. Okay, even for the backward classes also, they came up with different schemes, so that it will be used to empower themselves to climb the either social ladder or the economic ladder. Okay, so that is why these are called as the enabling rights. See, even though I am writing example, we will provide the material, don't worry. Okay, even for example, social security. See, there are some poor people who cannot afford, or previously we have the social security. What is the social security? Provident fund. Okay, previously we had the social security only for the employed people. Okay, now anyone can go for this social security. Now social security, for example, if you take NPS, National Pension Scheme, if you take an NPS, anyone can opt for this. So only thing is, based on your contribution, government also contribute the equal amount, and there is no restriction that only the salaried or employed people only can opt for this. Anyone can opt voluntarily. Okay, so these type of enabling rights came, and these are considered as a second generation. These enabling rights are, it is also called as the developmental rights. And third generation right. These are much more advanced than this second generation. For example, if you observe these days, so much of awareness increase about the environment. So maybe environment related rights. Environment related rights. To enable it, we even formed many groups like a Kyoto Protocol. Okay, and then Rio 20 plus summit. Okay, and then cultural rights. Okay, like this, the third generation of rights also came into picture now. Okay, and see, we have already seen what are the negative rights and what are the positive rights. Negative rights, in case of a negative right, always state is restricted. State is restricted. For example, I provided freedom of expression for the citizen. In the constitution, we have a freedom of expression for the citizen, but for the government that is not good. Why? Because see, anyone can easily expose the government if they have a uncontrolled freedom of expression. Then always government try to stifle this free expression. So to control the government or to stop the government to infringe upon the citizens' rights, we have some restrictions on the government. What is that? For example, if you want to see, Article 19 will deal with the freedom, okay, right to freedom in our constitution. So Article 19 can be suspended only in extraordinary circumstances. Otherwise, government is not authorized to suspend, or they don't have the power to suspend this right to freedom. Okay, so like that, there are some restrictions on the government. So whenever you are restricting the government, those are negative in approach. But whereas if you take some other rights like RTE, we are enabling the government to make any further arrangement or infrastructure or any amendment to the law, or so that more and more people will be benefited. And here we are mandating or enabling the government to tweak any changes or keep any changes in that. So it is called as the positive. It is called as the positive approach. Okay. So who previously we have seen so many thinkers and who advocated this rights-based approach. Okay, his name is John Rawls. So he is a leading thinker in this school. Okay. So he always tried to reconcile between liberty. Reconcile means in some agreement. Okay, liberty means he always capitalists want a lot of liberty. And then equality. These two are totally different, equality and liberty, because equality is advocated by communism. Okay, equality is through communism, liberty is capitalism. Okay, he tried to have some compromise between these two. Okay, this is how this is enough for the IAS. And in the civil services, how can we use this approach in civil services? IAS exam. I think many of you might be writing in the future, so that's why I just want to discuss that also here. So whenever you want to use this rights-based approach, then in the case studies, if you are getting something like a health related or education related, or if the government is infringing upon something, or if any officer or any powerful person is trying to exploit the poor people, then in that case you need to use this approach. Okay, you should protect. While writing the answer, you should mention that those people should be protected. For example, if there is a proposed amusement park in the reserved forest, where lot of tribal population is there, so you cannot simply go and evacuate them to construct this amusement park. Okay, if you are if you know the rights of the tribals, because without their consent you cannot evacuate them and establish any facility there. Okay, so in that case you need to mention this, like they have every right to say either yes or no about that establishment. So you need to talk in terms of the rights there. Okay, so based on the case study you need to choose this right based. Generally this rights based approach will come generally whenever there is a speech, freedom of speech, or health related, or even education related. Okay, or no, even I told like the tribal related or backward classes related. Whenever these type of situation come, then you need to go for this. Okay, and you try to justify your answer while writing the descriptive answer in the civil services case studies. Okay.